Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, women and gentle germs. This is the one and only Griffin G-Child, and I'm back one more time for a special holiday edition of the moonkast. That's right, this is a very special holiday edition. I do hope that you and yours and hers and his had a very happy, or should I say, Merry Christmas. And I do hope that everyone has a exciting new year as the January 1st date comes along. Today is December 30th, 2015, just one more day left in the year. And we want to talk a lot of basketball today. Very excited about the things we have to get to. Once again, the moonkast is brought to you today by Moon-Based Chronicles, the double LP from yours truly, Griffin G-Child, which is coming in the new year. Once again, I don't have a date set on it yet, but it's looking like late January, early February. So this mooncast is brought to you today by Moon-Based Chronicles. Just to get this started, we want to go over what we're going to talk about today. So a little bit of breaking news, as well as NBA injuries today. We're also going to just do a quick recap of the Christmas Day games in the NBA. We're going to talk about 3 NBA teams. We want to talk about the Los Angeles Clippers. We want to talk about the Detroit Pistons. And last but not least, we want to talk about the Phoenix Suns. And also, just another reminder for the true basketball fans out there, there is a big-time college basketball game on January 5th, which will be between LSU and Kentucky. That is going to be a big-time college basketball game. Toward the end of the mooncast, I will let you know the exact time of that game. Like I said, you don't want to miss that game. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to talk about Klay Anthony early. That is the breaking news in the NBA right now. He is a player for the New York Knicks in his second year. Hasn't been receiving a lot of playing time. He hasn't played a lot. Apparently was robbed leaving a strip club with his girlfriend. Got shot in the knee and robbed of his jewelry. And so I know that's a very tragic and horrific event. I do wish a speedy recovery to Klay Anthony early, and hoping that he can bounce back. He was a very good player at Wichita State. He spent 4 years there. He is a pretty good player. Hasn't really had the playing time to really show his stuff yet, as the Knicks are still in rebuilding mode. But hopefully he does recover, and we do hope that he's able to bounce back. So once again, that is Klay Anthony early, New York Knicks. That is the latest on the breaking news. Let's talk about some of the injuries in the NBA. The NBA season has been riddled with injuries. Most recently, Eric Bledsoe with a torn meniscus. He's going to miss the rest of the season, and I'll get more into the Phoenix Suns later, but just putting that out there with Eric Bledsoe, torn meniscus. Damian Lillard, he has missed time as well. A lot of players have missed time for just rest. Really breaking news going into tonight's game. The Golden State Warriors, they play the Dallas Mavericks. Stephen Curry, the reigning MVP from last season, he is going to miss that game. The Golden State Warriors just want to be cautious with his situation, and so this should mean big minutes and a big time performance for Klay Thompson. This is the time for him to step up tonight, actually, and show improve. And there should be some other guys that should be able to fill his place, fill his spot. Of course, not do everything that he does, but he is a one-of-a-kind player. But you're talking about guys like Sean Livingston. I look for a big performance from him, getting more minutes and running the show from the jump. So there's been a few injuries this year. You look at the Charlotte Hornets, Al Jefferson, He had his problems with injury as well as a substance abuse, which I believe was marijuana suspension. On top of that, Jeremy Lin is also not going to play tonight. Jahlil Okafor, he's had some knee trouble. He sat out for a few games. So there's been a number of injuries in the league. A lot of guys are sitting out for rest. It looks like today's athlete, I guess the way that, just with the evolution, today's athletes, they're bigger, stronger, and faster. And there's a lot of twitch muscle reaction and activity. And today's player, they seem to get injured maybe a little bit more, and the back-to-back seem to have a big effect on today's athlete. Brandon Jennings, who came off of a torn Achilles, he is back. He just came back last night against the New York Knicks, and he's back in action now for the Detroit Pistons, which I will get to the Detroit Pistons a little bit later on in the podcast. So we're going to talk about that. So once again, we're going to get into a recap of the Christmas Day games. But before we do, we're going to take a second to pause for station identification. And I will be back with you very shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Moonbase Radio. All right, well, once again, we are back. The Mooncast is brought to you today by Moonbase Chronicles, the double LP, coming from yours truly, Griffin G. Child, in the new year of 2016. Stay tuned for that release date. Stay tuned. We're getting back to it. As I was saying before the break, I'm just going to do a quick recap on all the Christmas Day games and the scores. So the first game of the day was the Miami Heat versus the New Orleans Pelicans, and that was a score of 94-88. The Chicago Bulls had a very impressive win against the Oklahoma City Thunder, 105-96. The headlining Christmas Day game, which I will go into more detail on, Cleveland Cavaliers took on the Golden State Warriors in a score of 89-83. The Houston Rockets beat the San Antonio Spurs. That was a very impressive win, 84-88. And the Los Angeles Clippers, which I will get into the Clippers here shortly, they took on the Los Angeles Lakers. They took on the Lakers in a score of 94-84. So those were the 5 Christmas Day games. I had the pleasure and the joy of watching all 5. So that was like the best Christmas gift I could have been given for myself. Talking about these Christmas Day games, I thought that was a very good win for the Chicago Bulls. There has been a lot of turmoil coming out of Chicago as well. I've heard some Joakim Noah, Taj Gibson trade rumors. Joakim Noah is in the last year of his contract. I've heard that he is a free agent. I'm not for sure how much the Chicago Bulls are going to be willing to offer him in a new deal. And so I think he is being floated around out there. The New Orleans Pelicans, I'll actually probably get more into them in a future Mooncast. The Pelicans, they seem to just be Anthony Davis and everybody else. I don't like the structure of how the team was built, and I think they do need to make some moves. But like I said, we will save the Pelicans for a future Mooncast. The OKC, Oklahoma City Thunder, it's been 2 to 3 years since that James Harden trade, and this is make or break. This is a contract year for Kevin Durant. I'm not sure if he will leave OKC, but I like to see how far they can make it this year in the playoffs with Kevin Durant healthy and with Westbrook healthy. We'll have to see how far they make it, and we'll also get more into them on a future podcast. But that had to be a tough loss at home on Christmas Day. The Bulls came out firing on all cylinders. Paul Gasol has looked excellent. Jimmy Butler, he's looked really great as well. Here and there, there are some issues. He did call out Fred Hoiberg. He called out the coach as far as being tougher on him in practice, and I guess it's being more aggressive in practice. That sounds like a nod to Tom Thibodeau, who they ousted last season after they failed to take out the Cleveland Cavaliers in 6 games without a healthy Kevin Love and also without a healthy Kyrie Irving. Going into the Spurs and the Rockets, the Houston Rockets, they have been, in my opinion, the biggest disappointment of this season with getting Kevin McHale fired. The pieces aren't fitting as well this year. Ty Lawson hasn't been good at all. I know a lot of analysts, including myself, we thought Ty Lawson would be a great pickup, but he just doesn't seem to fit in with this team. James Harden seems to be one-on-one, over dribble, ISO. Dwight Howard is not the same player he used to be. This team has been the biggest disappointment, but that was a very impressive win against the San Antonio Spurs. San Antonio Spurs are once again the class of the NBA, along with the Golden State Warriors, and Cleveland not too far behind. Moving on to San Antonio, it's hard to get a read on San Antonio. They rest players here and there, and they have such an excellent system that Greg Popovich, he may not show all of his pieces, or he may not show the things that he's going to do in the playoffs, in the regular season. So it's hard to get a read on them, but they're playing excellent basketball. Kawhi Leonard has made a tremendous leap and jump into taking over the team as the next superstar for that franchise. LaMarcus Aldridge, he has fit in quite well. I do think, in my opinion, he's a little overweight, but he has fit in quite well. Of course, early in the year they did struggle, but he has fit in great. I love his mid-range game, his back-to-the-basket game. Love his jumper. David West, he seemed to fit in okay coming off the bench. So they have a lot of pieces there. They could be the biggest threat to Golden State as well as OKC, but they haven't played Golden State yet. As the moonkast goes forward, I'll probably go ahead and get a date for you on those games. Those games will be must-see TV. The Los Angeles Clippers playing the Los Angeles Lakers for the Battle of Los Angeles. Of course, the Lakers, they're not where they used to be. Byron Scott, not sure if he's the right coach for this team. I do like D'Angelo Russell. In my opinion, I would have liked to see the Lakers get Jahlil Okafor or Kristaps Porzingis. Of course, that's hindsight 2020. This is Kobe's farewell tour, and we just want to see him off in a positive light. He's done so much for the NBA, 5 championships, 1 MVP. He's 5-7, I believe, in the finals. So he's done so much for the NBA. It's been an honor and a blessing to see him. The Lakers are hopefully in a fight for that top 3 draft pick to get a game-changing player to add to that future nucleus going forward. So we pretty much covered the Christmas Day games in a nutshell. But I'd like to get to the most important game, which was the Golden State Warriors taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. This game was a game of epic proportions. It was must-see television. I saw some good things from Cleveland in that loss. I know we don't like to really look at moral victories, but I did see a couple of things in that loss. They were able to slow down Golden State from their usual run and gun style, just holding Golden State to 89 points. LeBron had an off shooting night, which he's been in a shooting slump late. He did bounce back last night, which was December 29, 2015. He did bounce back last night on the 29th with a 34-point game, beating the Denver Nuggets 93-87. And that's, like I said, that was Tuesday, December 29th, 2015. He did bounce back there, but his jumper hasn't been on. He missed a lot of key free throws in that game. The thing that I saw, which has been a problem for all NBA teams, I believe the key to beating the Golden State Warriors is to make Stephen Curry work on defense, which he did not work at all on defense. He didn't have to work hard at all. They either put him on Iman Shumpert or they put him on Matthew Dellavedova. And he was just pretty much able to just camp out on the weak side of the court, away from the ball, and not expend a lot of energy. So I think that is a recipe for failure, or a recipe for disaster when you're playing the Golden State Warriors, if you're not going to make Stephen Curry work on the defensive end. Kudos to Luke Walton. He's done a fantastic job. He could be getting pointers here and there, I would believe, from Steve Kerr. They're able to hide and disguise Stephen Curry on the defensive end. and that helps him to preserve energy for that high screen and roll that he runs with Draymond Green and the bigs to get his shot off. And so that was the biggest key in that game, I believe, was they were able to make Golden State play at a slower tempo, even though Golden State still prevailed. Kudos to them, but they were able to slow them down. They do play the Golden State Warriors one more time on January 18th in the new year, which I believe is Martin Luther King Day. So they do play Golden State one more time in Cleveland. And so I'm hoping that David Blatt, who is the coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers, will be able to make some adjustments. I would like to see more game time on the fly adjustments. When Stephen Curry is on the defensive end and he's just lax and not really guarding anybody, I like to see a switch where Curry has to switch to whoever has the ball over to the strong side. And I feel like that adjustment was not made, so I'm hoping to see that adjustment made in that game. I would like to say that making Golden State play in the half court is the best possible chance for any team to beat them. I'm not saying you will be successful, but you have to be able to control the tempo of the game. And I believe that's going to come down to steady guard play. You have to have a good point guard to control the tempo of the game and slow it down. I don't think you can get into an up and down run and gun contest with Golden State. They'll just blow you out the water, which they've been doing to a lot of teams. So it was a very impressive Christmas Day lineup. Like I said, being from Ohio, I was a little disappointed in the outcome of that Cleveland Cavalier game. But like I said, it was a great day for basketball. Cleveland actually followed that game up with a tremendous collapse. They got blown out by the Portland Trailblazers the very next night, which was terrible. But they did bounce back on Monday against the Phoenix Suns, who, like I said, I will get into the Phoenix Suns in the next segment. We're going to take a quick break, and then we will be right back after the station identification. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Moonbase Radio. Well, all right, we're actually back once again. The Mooncast is brought to you today by Moonbase Chronicles, the double LP coming from yours truly, Griffin G. in the new year of 2016. So let's go ahead and get started here. We're going to talk about the Los Angeles Clippers. Starting off this next segment, the Los Angeles Clippers, they had a mental collapse in last year's playoffs, being up 3-1 against the Houston Rockets, and they actually gave that series back to the Rockets. And that's kind of been the story for the Los Angeles Clippers. It's always been gloom and doom. Going into this year, the team was very optimistic, picking up Lance Stevenson and Josh Smith to come off the bench. They also picked up Wesley Johnson. They let go of Spencer Hawes and Matt Barnes. So I believe they thought they had that small forward lineup shored up. They haven't been able to find the right combination off the bench. Josh Smith, Lance Stevenson, they haven't quite done as well coming off the bench. And they're still not quite where they want to be. Blake Griffin is going to be out with I believe it's an injury to his arm. He's going to be out for a little while. Sometimes the way that I like to look at it is sometimes an injury can be a blessing in disguise. I think with that injury, that will force one of the guys off the bench to put up or shut up. Basically, those guys have to step up. So this is an opportunity for Josh Smith to really step up. This is also an opportunity for DeAndre Jordan to step up and be more of a factor on the offensive end. In all of my days of watching DeAndre Jordan, I don't believe I've ever seen him take a jumper. I've always seen him just dunks and putbacks around the basket. So it would be nice if he could develop some sort of game other than just putbacks and dunks. But I do believe that once you've been in the NBA for a good 6 to 7 years, that's pretty much the player that you're going to be. So this is probably just who he is, but I would like to see him get more touches and help out on the offensive end without Blake Griffin in the lineup. The Clippers, they're in the middle of the pack in the Western Conference. with a record of 19-13, and they are also on a 3-game winning streak. They're on an East Coast trip right now. They do play Charlotte Hornets tonight in Charlotte, and so their last 3 games, they beat the Lakers on Christmas Day, which I mentioned earlier. They beat the Utah Jazz the day after in a back-to-back. They played the Wizards on Monday, which was the 28th. They beat the Wizards 108-91, and they have the Charlotte Hornets tonight. So as I was saying, this is an opportunity for the Clippers to step up and fill in the gap without Blake Griffin being in the lineup. Let's see here. We're going to look and see how much time that Blake Griffin is scheduled to miss. I believe he'll probably be out for maybe a couple of weeks. Also, another addition that I didn't mention earlier was the addition of Paul Pierce, who should be great for the locker room. But at Paul Pierce's age, you have to monitor his minutes to make sure that he's fresh and that you preserve him for the playoff push. So yeah, you do want to monitor his minutes. The next team we're going to get into, we're going to talk about the Detroit Pistons. The Detroit Pistons, they've had a sort of renaissance year. They've bounced back from a disastrous last year. They got rid of not J.R. Smith, but they got rid of Josh Smith. They brought in a player by the name of Ersan Ilyasova. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's supposed to be that stretch 4 to actually give Andre Drummond the room to dominate on the low block, which Andre Drummond has dominated the low block. He looks like he could be the second coming of a Moses Malone. He is averaging 18.2 points a game and 16 rebounds a game. So he has been playing phenomenal basketball. Of course, like a lot of big men, he needs to work on his free throw shooting so that he can improve in that area. But he has been playing some phenomenal basketball. He should be a bona fide all-star this year. Also, you look at a player, the name of Reggie Jackson, who I thought they gave him a 5-year, $85 million contract that I thought that was way too much. But he's averaging 20.1 points per game. He's averaging 6.3 assists a game. And he has been playing like an all-star. So I'm very impressed with Reggie Jackson, and I am very impressed with Andre Drummond. I do like the addition of Stanley Johnson. He is the rookie that they drafted out of Arizona. He already has an NBA body. He's about 6'7", about 245 pounds. I believe as he continues to mature, that his role in the offense will increase. Right now, he's averaging 8 points a game, and I like the fact that he is already a good defender. So he'll be a good defender in this league going forward. Brandon Jennings just came back off of injury. So Brandon Jennings is coming off the bench. As I mentioned earlier, he tore his Achilles, and so he's coming off the bench right now. He just came back last night against the New York Knicks in a losing effort, but it's good to see him back out on the floor. I am hearing some rumors that he may get traded. He is in the last year of his contract. I have heard that the New York Knicks are interested. Those are just a few rumblings that are going on out there. The Detroit Pistons, I believe they are in great shape for the future, and I believe they just need to continue to grow, and all the pieces continue. They need all the pieces to continue to fit. Another player that they have is Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, he's another one of my favorite young players. He's doing not too bad. I thought he'd be a little bit better at this point in his career, but he's averaging 13 points a game, about 3.4 rebounds and 2 assists, so he's not doing too bad. I feel that it will be a battle between him and Stanley Johnson as they go forward to see who will nab those starting spots going into the future. So we just talked about the Los Angeles Clippers. We also talked about the Detroit Pistons. So that's going to lead us to the last team that I'm going to talk about today. And I will talk about that team after this station identification. Ladies and gentlemen, You are listening to Moonbase Radio. Well, all right, we are back for our last segment of the Mooncast. Once again, the Mooncast has been brought to you today by Moonbase Chronicles, the classic double album or double LP coming very soon in the new year. In 2016, we don't know yet, but stay tuned. So getting back into the conversation here, we want to talk about the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns have a record of 12-21. Pretty brutal record. There were high expectations for this team going into the new year, but in my opinion, I believe the expectations were a little bit over the top. I don't believe that there were realistic goals that the team could actually reach. In the off season, they picked up Tyson Chandler. He's a great veteran presence for the team. Not much more than a putback and lob dunker at this time. But he is a great veteran presence, good for the locker room. They got rid of one of the Morris twins. The team has had Markieff Morris and Marcus Morris. And the team traded Marcus Morris to the Detroit Pistons, which angered Markieff Morris to the point of making trade demands and going on different tirades during the off season. I have heard rumors that he is on the trading block, but I haven't heard any takers up to this point. Looking at the roster, I don't feel that the roster is ready to contend right now. I don't believe the small ball roster will work long term. I believe the Phoenix Suns are a little bit, they're too finesse. I believe they need a low post scorer that can give them points off the block to complement the three-point shooting. I like John Lure. I like Mirza Teletovic. I'm a huge fan of Devin Booker, the rookie out of Kentucky that they drafted with the, I believe it was the 13th overall pick. And I'm also a huge fan of TJ Warren. They have some young pieces. Eric Bledsoe has a torn meniscus, and he is going to miss the remainder of the season. And that has to be a huge, crushing, and devastating blow to the team. But in my opinion, that injury is going to be a blessing. I believe the Phoenix Suns need a more traditional lineup. I believe Devin Booker, that he should be the starting two guard. He's a very good shooter. Reminds me a lot of Klay Thompson. I expect big things out of him, and I'd like to see Devin Booker be the starting two guard going forward. Brandon Knight, in my opinion, has played great. Of course, he's had some streaky performances, some streaky ball handling as far as running the offense, but I believe he has played great. I love John Lure. I said once again, Teletovic. Alex Len has showed promise, but he's just not as dominant on the low block, and I think that is Phoenix's undoing. They need a dominant low post presence. In my opinion, I would like to see a trade, in my opinion, for a player by the name of Zach Randolph. Yes, you've heard it here first. I haven't heard any rumors or anything of that nature, but I would like to see a trade for a player like Zach Randolph. I believe he will be a low post presence that the Suns could throw the ball into for a inside outside game, and I think that will help draw some attention away from the perimeter, and then that will open up the three-point shooting. I believe that's what the Phoenix Suns are missing. They're missing a low post presence. They're just coming off a loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers on Monday night. A questionable call on a illegal screen by Tyson Chandler and Iman Shumpert. So that play could have went either way. Brandon Knight actually hit the three-pointer to swing the tide in the Suns' favor, but it was called off due to an illegal screen on Tyson Chandler. So I know that had to be a very frustrating play. The Suns have the Spurs tonight in San Antonio, and they also have OKC Thunder, Oklahoma City Thunder, on Thursday night in a back-to-back situation. So I'm not for sure if they can win either of these games coming up. It's going to be pretty tough, I think, for the Suns to come out of this week with a victory. There's been plenty of rumors of Jeff Hornacek losing his job. Those rumors have been floating around. 2 of his top assistants have already been fired. And so they pretty much promoted a couple of other assistants to help out with the coaching duties. And so I do believe that it may only be a matter of time before Jeff Hornacek also gets the boot. Like I said, I don't really think it's Hornacek's problem. I just think the way the team is constructed, that it's not constructed to really contend. Just a little bit too much finesse for me. I'd like to see a little bit more grit and grind. I do like PJ Tucker. He is a very nice bruiser, veteran, but not enough to depend on to score off the low block enough. And so I believe that will be their undoing. Phoenix Suns are in a tricky situation. I believe they probably should have kept that Lakers pick. They had the pick that the Lakers had that was top 3 protected. They actually traded it to Philadelphia for Brandon Knight. I felt like maybe they should have tried to keep that pick, but of course they wouldn't have Brandon Knight right now. So, it goes either way. It's like you never know how it's going to go. With that conclusion, that concludes a very exciting podcast. We had a great time today. We covered a lot of interesting subjects. In the next podcast, I didn't get to it in this one. I'm still working on it. But we're going to talk about the Scottie Pippen effect in the next podcast. And we're going to talk about the small forward era, which is among us in my opinion. So we didn't get to those topics in this one. But we're going to talk about those in the next podcast. We're going to also talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder in more detail. We're going to talk about the Miami Heat in more detail. We're going to talk about the Miami Heat. And we're also going to talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves. So those are just 3 teams I'm just throwing out there. We want to talk about those 3 teams as well as whatever else news and updates are coming. Like I said, we're in the middle of a holiday break. So Merry Christmas to all. I hope all had a Merry Christmas, and I do hope that may God bless you all going into the new year. Last but not least, before I get out of here, I just want to let everybody know about the big college game. Once again, I told you I was going to mention it earlier. The big game that's coming up, January 5th. Kentucky's playing LSU. You're going to get a chance to see Jamal Murray go against Ben Simmons. Those are 2 top 5 potential draft picks. So January 5th, 7 p.m. That is actually 7 p.m. Mountain Time. So that should be 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So that should be 6 o'clock Pacific, 7 Mountain, and 8 Central for all those keeping track of the time zone. Kentucky versus LSU. That should be a very big game. We will also get into more potential NBA draft picks. We'll get into more players in this next podcast coming up in the new year. So once again, this moonkast was brought to you today by Moonbase Chronicles, the double album coming from yours truly, Griffin G. Child, in the new year. And hopefully soon, we will have a release date on that. That way you don't think I'm just blowing smoke, which I am not. But thank you for listening, and please stay tuned for more, and feel free to leave comments. Also, feel free to hit me up on Twitter at Griffin_Gchild. That is GRIFFIN_GCHILD. So we will see you soon. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen,
You are listening to Moon Base Radio.